They think they're ready. They've bookmarked the charts, memorized tokenomics, read every white paper from front to back twice. They follow the right influencers. They're in all the alpha Telegram groups. They've convinced themselves they're early positioned, informed. But let me strip away the illusion for a second and be brutally honest with you. No one is truly ready for what's coming. Not the XRP maxis preaching regulatory clarity. Not the HBAR believers clinging to carbon-neutral narratives. Not even the early XLM adopters quietly stacking, confident they've front-run the banks. Because this next phase, this shift that's already begun to unfold, is not just the next bull run. It's not just another hype cycle with new buzzwords and recycled promises. It's a strategic, silent, and irreversible restructuring of the entire utility layer of crypto. Behind the noise, the institutions have moved in. The same entities that once mocked blockchain, now they're engineering it. The regulators, they're not fighting the space anymore, they're shaping it. The global financial infrastructure, it's no longer just exploring DLT. It's embedding it. ISO 20022, real-time settlement, on-chain identity, smart liquidity routing. This is the final form, the deep integration, the invisible hand tightening its grip. And every piece is falling into place like a pre-written script. Private partnerships, sandbox experiments, cross-border pilots, all of it designed to converge quietly until one day it's everywhere. And you won't be able to opt out. Now here's the part that stings. By the time the average retail investor wakes up to this reality, the opportunity will be gone. Prices will be beyond retail reach. The networks once celebrated for their openness will be throttled behind permissioned layers. APIs you could once build on freely, now wrapped in compliance. Liquidity you could once tap into, now gated by KYC, taxation, and institutional custody. And worst of all, the revolution that was supposed to liberate the financial system will be used to fortify it instead. So if you're here right now watching this, reading this because someone sent you a link or a headline triggered something in your gut, don't ignore that instinct. This isn't clickbait. This isn't content for views. This is a flare in the sky, a last-minute signal to the ones still paying attention. A window that is shrinking by the day, hour, and block. Because what's coming next won't knock. It won't announce itself. It will just be here, fully integrated, fully monetized, and already moving at the speed of compliance. Subscribe. Stay locked in. Not because it helps the algorithm, but because it keeps you ahead of the machinery. Because those who win in the next era won't be the loudest voices on crypto Twitter. They'll be the ones who quietly positioned while everyone else was distracted by noise. You still have time, but not much. Let's go deeper. Let's dig in. Look around. Crypto feels dead. Volume is thin, price action is flat. Influencers are either quiet or pushing the same recycled hype. Even the usual fear and greed cycles feel muted. It's almost like the entire market is sedated. But that's the illusion, because behind that silence is a build-up, slow, calculated, and dangerously underestimated. You're not just witnessing a market pause. You're standing in the eye of a financial storm that's being engineered in real time. Everyone's distracted by meme coins, layer 2 wars, and the next flashy altcoin narrative. But they're missing the only thing that matters. Infrastructure tokens are aligning. XRP, HBAR, XLM. These aren't speculative assets anymore. They're evolving into system-level architecture. Not just for crypto, for everything. Payments, identity, data, trade, compliance, global liquidity. And yet, 99% of retail is still waiting for price pumps like it's 2021. But what's coming next won't look like any bull run we've seen before, because the next wave won't be retail-driven. It'll be institutionally timed, regulator-approved, and quietly executed, while the average investor scrolls past it. This isn't about technical analysis or chart patterns anymore. This is about understanding how new financial rails are being laid in plain sight, without the fanfare, without the noise, and how those rails lead straight to assets like XRP, HBAR, and XLM. And when the lights finally come on, it'll be too late to move. So if you're here waiting for someone to tell you it's time, This is it. Not because you're early, but because soon you won't even be allowed through the front door. The hidden alignment, what no one's talking about. Let's stop pretending this is a level playing field. The financial future isn't being built in public Twitter threads or Reddit debates. It's being assembled quietly, in backroom meetings, closed-door summits, and quiet pilot programs buried in PDFs that barely anyone reads. While retail chases the next breakout meme coin or some AI-generated hype, the real blueprint is already in motion, and XRP HBAR XLM and a few select others are at the center of it. Ask yourself this: why is the IMF hosting panels on tokenized money systems with Ripple sitting at the table? Why are World Economic Forum documents consistently referencing Hedera's governance model? Why is Stellar involved in cross-border payment programs across developing nations, with actual adoption, not just vaporware? This isn't coincidence. It's coordination. These protocols aren't here to compete with each other for retail attention. They've each been assigned roles in the new global financial operating system. XRP is being positioned for liquidity bridging, not for day traders, but for central banks and financial institutions that move billions daily. HBAR is being leveraged for its enterprise-grade governance and unmatched finality. Governments and Fortune 500s want what it offers: security, scalability, and legal clarity. XLM is becoming the invisible rails for cross-border humanitarian aid, microfinance, and digital identity, especially in underbanked economies. Now, here's the part no one wants to talk about. The public is being kept distracted, and intentionally so, because this new infrastructure is not being built for retail speculation. You won't be the primary user of these protocols. You'll simply be permitted access if you've positioned yourself early enough. And make no mistake, they'll make it harder and harder to get in later, whether through regulation, custodial restrictions, or just pricing you out. Just look at what's happening with tokenization. BlackRock, HSBC, and Citi are testing blockchain settlement systems. JP Morgan's Onyx is already using its own internal ledger for cross-border payments. Governments are rolling out CBDC trials built on or interoperable with public chains. This isn't a test run. It's rollout, and they're not building from scratch. They're tapping pre-existing ledgers that have been battle-tested and heavily overlooked by retail because they weren't moon-worthy enough. Here's the bitter truth. The next phase isn't about who can build the fastest blockchain. It's about who can integrate with global systems without disrupting the balance of power. That's why these protocols were selected, not hyped. That's why you're not seeing them trending. They don't need your attention. They just need your silence until it's too late to act. The trap is set, and regulation is the bait. They told you regulation would bring clarity. They told you it would legitimize the space. But what they didn't tell you is that it's also the final filter, the great divide between speculation and utility. While most are still shouting SEC this and Ripple lawsuit that, they've missed the bigger picture. Regulation isn't coming to destroy crypto. It's coming to standardize the winners and eliminate the noise. Let's call it what it really is: a compliance firewall. One that clears the path for government-friendly protocols while setting fire to everything else. And when the smoke clears, you'll see a handful of assets standing tall: XRP, HBAR, XLM, and a few others that already play by institutional rules. This isn't a fight for freedom. There's a redesign of control. Central banks aren't experimenting with Ethereum memecoins. The IMF isn't holding secret talks about Pepe or Doge. The BIS isn't interested in random DAOs with no real governance. They're aligning with networks that are fast, compliant, stable, and permissioned, yet public when needed. Protocols that can enforce finality, integrate with KYC/AML, and support tokenized fiat and identity without blinking. XRP was already declared not a security for programmatic sales. That wasn't a win for Ripple, that was a signal. HBAR sits under the Hedera Governing Council, which includes Google, IBM, LG, Boeing, Standard Bank, and more. XLM is in bed with the UNHCR, IMF pilot studies, and the Ukrainian government. This is not retail's crypto anymore. It's protocol-grade infrastructure for the machine running the next financial system. The rise of CBDCs and digital ID, and why you should pay attention. Here's what most people refuse to accept. CBDCs are coming. not as an experiment but as centralized programmable money. Digital IDs will be tied to access, to payments, to healthcare, even to voting and services. These systems will not run on Bitcoin or your favorite DeFi app. They will need interoperable, scalable ledgers, the kind being tested quietly right now on XRP, HBAR, and XLM. Already, Ripple is working with over 20 central banks worldwide on CBDC infrastructure. Hedera is involved in supply chain verification and carbon credit systems, all part of the digital ESG identity grid. Stellar is powering cross-border relief and banking services, not speculation but real-world utility. And here's the twist. You won't be able to opt out of this shift. You'll either be ahead of it or caught inside it with no leverage. That's why they've kept the public distracted. That's why regulations took years, to buy time while the pipes were laid. By the time the rules are clear, the prices won't be. And retail won't be early anymore. They'll be the exit liquidity. So what happens next? Utility assets will quietly surge. Not from hype, but from integration. Compliant tokens will become the only bridge into the new financial world. And retail investors who understood the alignment, not the noise, will wake up holding access keys to a system they were never meant to see coming. Next, we'll dive into tokenized assets, the coming asset freeze trap, and why owning the right assets off-exchange might be the last real move you'll ever get to make. You're not late. You're just unprepared. Here's the truth most won't say out loud. You haven't missed the biggest gains, but you will miss them if you're still thinking like a retail trader chasing pumps. This isn't about flipping tokens anymore. XRP, HBAR, XLM, they're not just coins with potential. They're becoming the very rails upon which value will move globally, quietly, permanently, and without asking you first. And that's the problem. Most people are still waiting for a big green candle to tell them it's time to pay attention. They're still stuck in the world of YouTube thumbnails, Twitter hype, and meme coins that pump and dump overnight. But this is a slow takeover. Central banks don't tweet. Governments don't make flashy videos. And billion-dollar enterprises don't send newsletters when they integrate new ledger technology. They move in silence. While retail debates price targets, institutions are loading positions. While the public argues over market cap rankings, the real players are finalizing infrastructure that could one day settle trillions, quietly using the very assets you're ignoring, mocking, or selling out of too soon. Let's get one thing straight. You're not too early. You're not too late. You're right on time if you act with intention. Because when it all goes live, the corridors, the bridges, the tokenized assets, the compliance rails, the ISO standards, there won't be another announcement. Just movement. And by then, everything will be repriced. Not based on hype, but utility. Still think this is about hype cycles? Still think XRP, HBAR, and XLM are maybe someday projects? You'll wake up one morning to find they were never altcoins in the first place. They were the infrastructure for a digital economy, and the gate is about to close. So here's your moment. Position yourself. Educate yourself. Arm yourself. Because when the system flips, and it will, the ones who took this seriously will not just survive. They'll dominate. If that's you, if you're done sleeping on the future, subscribe right now and turn on notifications. This isn't just a channel. It's your edge in a rigged system. Let's front-run the future. Together. So take a step back for a moment and really look at what's unfolding. This isn't just another cycle of headlines, speculation, and short-term pumps. This is a full-blown paradigm shift, and the systems being built today are not being built for the present. They're being built for what's coming. The XRP ledger isn't just about faster transactions. HBAR isn't just about energy efficiency. XLM isn't just about remittances. Together, they're forming the foundation of a new financial architecture that's more transparent, more programmable, and more connected than anything we've ever seen. But most people won't see it. They'll be too busy chasing the next meme coin, too distracted by noise, too conditioned to think short-term. By the time the real infrastructure is live, the rails connected, the gateways open, the liquidity corridors humming, they'll be left asking, how did I miss this? But not you. You're not here for hype.